Hi guys! Good morning, sunshines. I am back. I committed to myself that I was going to try and do this every week. So here I am. This is episode 2, which is my third week of doing it. I'm about to throw some last minute items on the wheel for my Washington show coming up, the American Fine Craft Show at the DC Armory on Friday through Sunday of next weekend, which is October 23rd through the 25th. And I am just going to show you a little part of the process. Now, I'm going to step away from the wheel and go over to my wedging table because I need to wedge a couple of pieces, but I'll just wedge up one to get started. And basically, I've already weighed my clay out. So I know I have a couple of, can you see me back here? A couple of 1-pounders that I'm wedging, and I'm just doing regular wedging. It's fairly well wedged reclaimed clay that I did the other day because I thought I was gonna run out of clay till I could get my next clay delivery. So I've been like scrounging around. I've been reclaiming everything I can. Probably totally wasted time because by the time I could actually get to using the clay, I am all set. So I actually have tons of clay that has already been delivered. But meanwhile, what I do is I do the wedging and then I get these are some small pieces that I'm making. They're these little like jars that I like to play with. I create different textures on them. They're not as involved as my other work. It's sort of like my version of the mug, this sort of intro piece to what I do. I can show you what they look like really quickly if I just bring them over here to show you. They're little jars like this, and they have glass in them. I may play with some without glass, but they're different sizes, gives a couple different prices, but it's basically the same thing. And with that, I will probably start throwing a couple, and what I do is I create a closed form. They're not heavily crafted in terms of a flange or a gallery to sit in, because basically these need to be my option to the mug. So they need to be a simple intro piece, and I've created sort of a scallop opening that allows them to find their home. It sits properly. They can hold like trinkets and your rings at the sink. They could hold little candies. They could be little candy vessels as well. I am currently drinking out of my Sam Taylor mug. Oh my God, I think this might be the second one on this video blog that I'm doing. And this one's a fish that I got. I don't know, you know, the lighting is a little funny here. You see that? Yeah, this is great. Tummy's a little bit off. You don't need to know about my ailments. But I'm going to throw a piece. I had a disaster as I was putting a piece in the kiln. I'm just going to throw this. I got to get some crud off my wheel first. I have a lot of my tools here. I just cleaned them off, so I put them back up on my pegboard that I have next to the wheel. Got all my tools. I try to clean them off fairly frequently so that I just don't feel all scudgy with all this stuff. I have a lot of these words that I just sort of make up, so you know, it's not like they'll ever be used again. It could be the same word used over and over, or it could be just a brand new made up word, so bear with me. I feel like I need to share all of these bits and pieces to my process with you guys. I'm trying to keep this very transparent, and I mean, albeit a little boring at times maybe, because everything that I do isn't like so exciting like all of us. I am sitting at my wheel. I'm standing, actually, I should tell you. I've created this contraption. I originally saw it through Kristen Kiefer, but I know she created it from John Glick, and I don't even know if mine is the best option, but it kind of does the trick for me. My wheel is high. It kind of comes to my hip bone, maybe a little higher. Actually, the wheel itself comes to my hip bone. It's on legs because I herniated 2 discs in '08, and that sucked. And I also use a mirror to try, if I want to bend down, I try not to bend down. I try to use the mirror so that I'm not straining my back. This little thing I just sort of made out of old pillow stuffing from my crafty days. And this little piece of wood I think I picked up really cheap somewhere. And then I had like old wedged blocks from when the kids were little. And so this goes up against my back, and this kind of goes under my tush. And basically, it's not quite a seat. It's more of a bracing. And I mean, it's not a big deal for 1 pound of clay, but it is when I'm dealing with like major stuff. And I'm always shifting my pedal. But basically, I just throw down the clay. I am getting it centered. I may cone it up once just to make sure it's centered. And I'm gonna pop right in to drill down the middle. I try to keep my elbows in at all times, and I don't want to go too far to the floor. I mean, these are sort of basic throwing skills, which I'm not trying to profess to teach to you guys. This is more of a blog, and like more unique techniques might be discussed, unless you really want to see like how I throw. I think everyone's throwing is a little bit different. I think mine is fine, but I'm moving kind of fast through the process because I just want to get to where I'm forming the piece so that we can discuss that. I will also say that the reason like I am working this way is that in terms of it, you only seeing like things start to finish, is that I wanted to keep this sort of spontaneous. I don't have a lesson plan per se for every taping I'm doing, and I know though, I mean, I have an idea of what I want to talk to you guys about, but I'm not really focused on being really overly planned, because that's just not what this is about. This is more about life in the studio and things coming up, and you know, I'm happy to address things. If you guys have any ideas, please leave comments and questions on YouTube and or my Instagram or Facebook. On Instagram, I'm at JT Ceramics. My email is jtceramics@aol.com, and I'm trying to get this done. I'm going to make a closed form here. I hear my doggy coming in. What I was going to say is that I basically, so I'm filming it as a oneer, and I actually know a little bit about a oneer. Thank God it's a professional term in a slang sense, because back in like '93, my husband and I were extras on the TV show ER, and Quentin Tarantino was directing. Don't even ask how we ended up on this show. I don't even know. We have a tape of it, only it's a CR tape. Like, who has a VCR player? I do, because I want a TV and it has a VCR in it. It's over here in my studio. So if I want to play it repeatedly, I could, but I'm not. I digress. The point is, the whole scene had to be filmed as a oneer. And I'm just finessing this because I'm really focused on talking to you, not making this piece very quickly. But basically, I'm creating the shape while I am closing the shape, and I'm trying to create as clean as a transition to closing the shape as I can. And I don't want to thin it out or make it wonky in areas, so I continue to kind of pull the last bit of clay out at the same time. So anyway, back to Quentin Tarantino and the oneer. Basically, it has to be done in one shot. Now, what that means is they do a lot of shots of the entire scene. And the scene went from like room to room to room. And if you were an ER fanatic, which you might not be, but it was the motherhood episode where Susie's sister, who was kind of like, I want to say she was a little drug addict-y, but she was kind of back and forth, and she was getting clean all the time. And she's an actress that we've seen like a gazillion times. Anyway, she was having a baby. Quentin Tarantino was directing the episode. I stood behind George Clooney for 13 takes. It was amazing, but I was so afraid of him, I could never say hello to him. I just kind of like smiled. It was pathetic. It was pathetic. I was like 26, maybe, about 26. Maybe a little older. Maybe I was 27. No. I had to be. Maybe I was 24 because I got married at 25. Okay, you don't care about this, but the point is they had to do it in one take. And the reason why I have to do it in one take is that I have no editing skills for these videos. All I know how to do is turn on the camera and talk. So that's basically where we are right now. But if I can get my act together and learn how to crop and attach video to video, I will do that. But right now, I'm focusing on my work and just doing this sort of as an addendum to the work. So I'm not becoming like an amazing director or editor like some people I know out in LA. I am simply making my work. This is going a little too fast for what I'm trying to do. So, okay. So the thing is, ideally, I want to close it because once I close it, I can work against the air inside that will push out. Now this baby's pretty close, but I have a little divot there. But I'm thinking I can get that smoothed out by just bringing it all together. Now, other thing I do here, I don't want the shape to be too high, so I'm trying to push it down at the same time, and I'm smoothing it out. Now, the other thing I'm trying to do is I need a space for that glass to go on top. So I'll make it pretty flat, and then I need to sort of work my way in. And often when I do this, there's so much air pressure in there, doesn't really let me do it. So sometimes I poke a hole, which I can clean up later, and I can get that sunken little piece for the glass. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna poke a hole, boom, and then I'm just gonna let just enough air out to make this little divot. I'm gonna take some of that clay that I took off earlier. I'm going to plug where I think the hole was. I saw the little dot. And I'm going to give it a little more thickness here because it's just that way, like there's no question, like there's not going to be any holes. I don't need glass dripping into the actual piece. And then I just smooth it out again. And I try not to overwork it because there's just no need and the clay just gets wet and gross. So basically, I've got my little shape for my little rounded box. I've got my little divot for my glass. as a little bling factor on these pieces. I heard an interesting thing yesterday. I think it was about how when a writer writes a book, it was said by Amy Spencer? I don't think it's Spencer. It's the woman that wrote The Botanist, and she was on a Jonathan Fields podcast, and she was saying that even in her books, she adds a little bling to each page or each chapter. And it was interesting because she's like, her writing is basically like jewelry for the brain, the inside of our brain. Like, it's something for you to think about. I'm making the hole again because I didn't like how it actually worked out. And basically, I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, so my work is sort of like jewelry for your house, which is true. I mean, we all know it's home accessories, home decor, whatever. But that's sort of what it is. I mean, we all like a little bling here and there. And everybody, now, on functional pieces, it's less about the bling. Although, even on a functional piece, there's something about the piece that may have a little zippity zap to it, right? Or you would just be making a cup that completely just functions, and that's all you would be focused on. But I think for most of us as potters and handmade potters in particular, or ceramic artists, any piece that we're making, we're basically making, I've totally overworked this piece, but it's basically because I'm just showing you it. We're basically making it to decorate your experience, and I kind of like that. So I'll be making more of these. What else to tell you about? This is getting long again. I don't want to get this too long. I've heard some great podcasts lately. I really liked Rob Lugo on, Lugo on the Potters Cast. I loved the NSECA panel that was on the NSECA podcast that Ben Carter just basically acted as the moderator for the podcast. Adam Field was the moderator for the panel. And one of my favorite things, and I'll just leave this at the end in passing, one of my favorite things was they were talking about how, like, there was somebody called up from the audience and the person said, yeah, I come to NSECA and I get to meet like all these like amazing potters and ceramic artists that I may have followed for a while, and they're sort of like my idols. I don't know if she said that in particular, but you get the point. And I've always called them the rock star potters. And Andrew Casto, who was talking on the panel, he actually said, like, yeah, I know what you mean. It's so true. It's so great that we have, I'm totally paraphrasing. I hope not to slander anybody, and I hope I'm getting everyone's names right. But basically, he's like, to come to NSECA, it's a nice number of people, and you do get to meet your favorites and stuff like that. Like, they're sort of like stars. I mean, it's not like you're, meeting Prince, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, I mean, I'm a huge Prince addict from 1983, first concert, Purple Rain, flowers came from the sky. I don't know, I might be losing followers from that comment, but if we could get Prince to be the keynote speaker about creativity, or the Randall sessions, oh my God, then NSECA becomes like nirvana, because you're seeing everyone you love. And by the way, the comment was she was so excited to meet Ben Carter, and I love that. That is super cool. So if you haven't checked out Ben Carter and Molly Hatch's it's not a workshop, it's a whole program that they're doing called Think Big. It's a great way to learn about how to get involved in different areas of marketing your work, and sort of what goes on with licensing and stuff like that. I did take the course. it's a course. I took the course last session, and it was great. And I highly recommend it to people, especially if you don't have experience. I mean, I had apparel industry experience, so I kind of knew how licensing works, but it was very cool to hear about it from this side of things, home goods, ceramics, that kind of thing. So it was kind of interesting. I mean, super interesting, and they're both really vibrant, amazing people. Not sure what else to tell you about. Like I said, I've got that show next Saturday. Well, it's Saturday and Sunday, and Friday is the big opening, 2 to 8. It's going to have artist talks and some prizes, I believe. And it's if you're in DC or the surrounding area, it's at the DC Armory, the American Fine Craft Show. I'm booth 153. My next video may be coming from my booth at the craft show, and it may be very brief because I may just be using my cell phone, not this really snazzy camera that's so amazing. Not. Anyway, the bottom line is, so I'm letting this one go a little longer because the next one could be a little short. You may see me in the weeds of setting up. I'm kind of totally stressed out because I've been doing a lot of preparing for the show, and some of it is just totally like backroom stuff, pricing and tagging and what have you, and packing. Hopefully I'll make it down there with things in one piece. If you've followed my Instagram or Facebook, you may have noticed that I did have a casualty. I'd like to show you it so that you can truly appreciate my pain. One moment, please. And we'll end on the note of, remember this platter I made? Nice big platter? Boom! Broke. It broke. It broke. I tried to fix it. Of course I tried to fix it, like I try to fix everything, and it never works in clay. I mean, occasionally you get one that works. What happened was I put it in the kiln, all was well, and then I put those kiln posts in, and one lost its balance. I'm sure it's human error. I'm just saying, and it fell on the greenware, the totally bone dry greenware. So these pieces cracked off in like perfect shapes. So I tried to put them back together, and I worked on it, and I did this whole thing, and then I went to put it in the kiln, and as I'm lifting it, the pieces fell off, they fell on the floor, they crumbled to dust, and that was the end of that, which I don't know. Sometimes I take this as like, no, that piece wasn't supposed to make it. I did make 2 additional pieces. They are in the kiln with shelves already established on top of them so that I cannot screw it up any further. And I'm sort of waiting out so that I can get my last pieces in and do my last firings. And you know, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. If you have any ideas, I've sort of thought about a few things, but it's kind of hard when you're trying to take something you were very happy about and now it's destroyed and do something else with it. So I haven't gotten rid of it yet, but I have every intention of, in fact, getting rid of it. Meanwhile, though, just learn a lesson that clay is clay, and if it was meant to be, maybe it wouldn't have cracked. I don't know if that's the lesson to learn, but I do think that we are constantly reminded in our studio that life is fragile, clay is fragile, and you better just enjoy the moment because really that's all we have. And on that philosophical note, I'm going to cut out, and I hope to see you guys next time. I don't see you, you see me. And if you have any friends that you think would like this witty banter, have them check it out and subscribe. So have a great time. Nice weather right now, at least here on the East Coast currently. And, you know, subscribe, follow the yellow brick road. That's how I'm going to leave it. That's intense. You should read into that. You should spend at least an hour reading into that. Good luck with that. Okay, ciao, ciao. Arrivederci.